Stand ready for my arrival, worm.
What if those were the very first words we heard from Monkey D. Garp? Woo! What if the Viltrum Empire pulled up to the One Piece world? The Monkey D family themselves were Viltrumites, and they saw the blue planet of One Piece and wanted to make this blue planet a part of the Viltrum Empire. Now listen, why? Because I saw a pretty cool fan art of Garp being Conquest, and I was like, you know what?
And I thank you for it.
There's a lot of what if content that I had planned, and the end of it I did a few days ago over here. Boom, check it out. That is feeling a little bit lonely. I'm so lonely.
All the other Viltrumites are scared of me.
So I figured, okay, hold up, time out. I want to do more what ifs. I'm seeing this picture of Garp as Conquest. You know what? Let's just put it on the table. Let's just boom, slam it down and see what happens. Is it a mess or is it gonna be magical? Let me know in the comment section down below. Not only am I a big One Piece fan, obviously, but if you don't know, I do reactions to many shows, including Invincible, on my Patreon, which later get uploaded to my Cole-san YouTube channel, where we've done reaction after reaction for Solo Leveling, many hot anime seasonal shows, and not only anime, but beyond anime, things like Alice in Borderland, things like The Expanse, and Invincible. Invincible Season 3 was heat. The animation, maybe not as good as, actually, I would say definitely not as good as Season 1, but you could argue that it is better than Season 1 and 2. You could argue that Invincible Season 3 is better than Season 1 and 2 of the series, even though the animation is not as good. The content in that season is beautiful. Now, what if the Monkey D family were Viltrumites and the Viltrumites wanted to take over the One Piece world for the Viltrum Empire? The Viltrum Empire send about 1 or 2 folks to one planet to try and take over that planet. And in this case here, I'm thinking the best person for the job would be Garp. Because I think it'd be kind of funny if Dragon and if Luffy were also Viltrumites and they had unique powers off the gate. They had these insane physiques that are almost Kryptonian in many respects, of course, obviously. In fact, the Viltrumites are so insane that a lot of people online will do videos like, hey, what if the Saiyans fought the Viltrumites? Who would win? What if Frieza tried to destroy planet Viltrum? Frieza? Please, I would annihilate the whole planet in a mere nanosecond with a single beat. There goes my baby. But Lord Frieza, we don't give a damn about that right now. We care about One Piece, baby. Monkey D. Garp. I think it's going to be interesting as hell because there are various parts of the world that actually view unique powers and abilities to be almost akin to myth godhood, where you have, for example, in the East Blue, devil fruits were seen as really, really rare, almost magical. But we found in the Grand Line, there are many power users, and devil users were not as shocking as they were in the East Blue. The world, it's isolated. That is gonna be, I think, a big boon for the Viltrumite goals. A lot of parts of the One Piece world are very isolated, and not everyone is gonna be on the same page as what to do or not to do. Particularly when someone comes in, they're so gifted, so world-renowned for their skills and their abilities. And one of the things we do know is that the Viltrumites, according to what we see with Omni-Man, Nolan, Mark's father, because he wanted to bring Earth into the fold of the Viltrum Empire, what did he do? He tried to weaken the planet's defenses, and what he did at the very beginning of the story was take out the Guardians of the Globe. Because he knew that the time was right, when Mark started gaining his powers, after he threw that one trash can into space, and he has that subtly scary and intense moment of, you sure?
Are you sure?
Pretty sure.
It was at that point in time, Nolan locked in. He locked in because the time was right, because his son was blooming his powers are coming, and preparations for planetary takeover needed to be set into motion. What we see in season 2 were so many versions of Mark and Omni-Man wind up taking over or destroying the world, Universe 616, that was about to go down. But in this situation here, Viltrumite D. Garp would probably try and win over the hearts of people, probably view Garp as some sort of deified individual, flying around, saving people, stopping pirates. He could, let's say, still be Marine, fight for righteousness and for justice, because the vast majority of people on the planet do rely on the Marines for their protection, and as a whole are probably the organization that is viewed the most highly by the vast majority of people. So he's not trying to be a henchman for a bad guy, like he's not trying to be under Machine Head's authority. He's trying to get in the higher ranks of the most prominent individuals of the planet, and those are the most respected. The Marines are the best bet. But it is that's what his goal would be until the time was right to where his son, Viltrumite D. Dragon, would come at a certain age. He would gain his powers, and then he would, at that point in time, aim to weaken the forces of the blue planet of One Piece. Because the world of One Piece is so isolated, there is probably a very good chance that many countries will be told by Viltrumite D. Garp himself that he is an alien from another world, the Viltrum Empire, and he is tasked with bringing this planet to heal. The whole planet, as a result, including the country, will benefit from that, but you'll be under Viltrumite rule. And I think a lot of nations in the world of One Piece will accept that. I think so. We see on Earth in the story of Invincible, there's no real tug of war by other nations to say whether or not they should or should not join the Viltrum Empire. I'm pretty sure that other countries know, not just the USA, they know that Nolan is an alien from planet Viltrum. And at the end of season 1, the entire world saw on display what he was really about. It was laid bare for the world, and the world was terrified. I think that higher ups across the entire world will know of the Viltrum Empire's existence, not just Cecil and company. You would think that some countries that are in particularly dire situations, maybe they would say, you know what? We're already in a really bad spot as it is. And if these guys have the technology to alleviate hunger, to alleviate illnesses permanently, well then so be it, because even though we lose our freedoms, our quality of life raises exponentially. That is something I think is going to be a hot topic in many parts of the world. Mainly to the East Blue, where Garp comes from, but also Grand Line, West, North, New World, so on and so forth, where there'll be a lot of countries debating on if they should not or should join the Viltrum Empire. And I think some will say yes, particularly those that are what? Under the strict regimes of bad nobles and elites and or the world government, particularly those that have to pay an absurdly high tax tribute to the world nobles and world government. And right now, everyone watching this video will volunteer as tribute, because we got to give a few moments for a brief word from today's sponsor. A few months ago, I went to what is, at this point in time, the best trip of my life. I went to Japan. And Japan was an amazing experience across the board when it came to the people, the culture, the scenery, the food, the environment. Everything about Japan fit my bill, to the point where at some point I am gonna go back again. However, part of that experience, which was so damn good, was knowing that no matter where I went, my internet access was always protected because I had Surfshark VPN. Whether it was the unsecure internet access of the hotel, or when I was out and about roaming the streets of Shibuya, Akihabara, or other parts of Tokyo, I knew that I was protected with Surfshark VPN. It is absolutely great for traveling, particularly when you can get it on all your devices with no extra cost. And on top of that, I could watch all the shows that I normally would watch in the States that I could watch in Japan, with the VPN's ability to bypass a lot of region gating. And all these safety measures on top of the clean web feature, on top of the IP changes, on top of the virus and malware blocking, Surfshark VPN has your back on so many fronts, no matter where you are in the world and no matter where you go on the web. And I know, as anime manga faithful, we go to some gnarly spots on the web. And make sure you bring your shield that should be Surfshark VPN. So abracadabra, you can scan this QR code that you see right in front of you, or you can go in the description box down below, surfshark.com/KOL, to get an exclusive deal and 4 months free. Recall how bad things were in the Lulusia Kingdom. There was insane rates of taxes that they had to pay for the celestial dragon, and the nobles of the country were so bad that when they came back from the reverie, they were swept up in the 8 Kingdom revolt and were chained up and thrown into a cell before the world government and Emu decided to annihilate the entire country with the 16 death race. The fact of the matter is that that country was in such a bad state that many citizens of Lulusia would have been a-okay, absolutely all right with joining the Viltrum Empire, because they're already so low, they can only get higher, and the quality of life that the Viltrum Empire is promising is far better than their current day-to-day lives. So more examples, let's say, be countries like where Brooke got teleported to before the time skip. That country was in a poor condition, and a lot of those folks would be probably willing to join the Viltrum Empire to have their quality of life improved. Let's say the same thing goes for the Vodka Kingdom, where Kaido grew up, where these folks were fighting non-stop wars because they needed that money from the war to pay the tributes to the Celestial Dragons in the Holy Land. And then there are other nations across the entire world, like for example, the Kamabaka Queendom or Big Mom's territories or the Holy Land itself, where the quality of life is so good in these parts of the world that they definitely wouldn't want to join the Viltrum Empire. And in fact, if they were to lose their liberties that they have, then that would probably be an upfront to them, and hell no. So there really could be a lot of tension with nations, and the world government as we know it could fracture into more pieces because there would be sub-factions of nations that would want or do not want to join the Viltrum Empire once word gets around that this is happening. And someone like Viltrumite D. Garp, who is probably deemed to be a hero by many, deemed to be a savior by many, and so on, even though he would, let's say, do atrocities, it'd still be deemed by, I think, many folks, listen, our lives suck as it is. We want to join the Viltrum Empire. So the politics of One Piece that are already somewhat complicated could then become way more complicated when you have the Viltrum Empire involved and Viltrumite D. Garp. And that would be something for sure very interesting to actually dive into, because moving forward then the question is, okay, how do you stop someone like a Viltrumite like Monkey D. Garp? Well, you can do it. And now let's get onto the stopgaps and the power scale of things in a sense. We do know for a fact that Viltrumites are insanely powerful. Omni-Man, Mark Grayson, aka Invincible, and Conquest and Anissa being prime examples of that. Particularly Omni-Man, where Omni-Man, we have seen him do various things. We saw him with the Flaxons on their home planet, where he was darting around like mad, and he was wiping out almost all life, if not all life on their planet, and forced these dudes to make a portal back to Earth, and then drops a whole station on them. It was crazy work with Omni-Man. It was nuts. Then, when he's training with Mark to make sure that Mark is up and up, he does have this moment where they're doing asteroid flinging, where there's one meteor asteroid coming their way to planet Earth, and then Mark has to stop it, and then he has to fling it back to space. And then Omni-Man says, that was a small one. Mark's like, what? A small one? You should see the one I did last year, the size of Texas. An asteroid the size of Texas is, forget about destroying all of on the planet. It's damn near destroying a large quantity of the planet. The planet itself would have a large portion of it just annihilated, let alone all life on the planet. So absolutely, without a doubt, he saved so much of the planet by diverting an asteroid. If he did the same thing that Mark did, that means that he put his 2 hands in there, he spun around and flinged it the size of Texas. Bro, that's bonkers. And then there's even moments like him going near a black hole, about to get sucked in. He's passing dwarf stars and red stars, all this radiation that would normally like kill any regular individual, of course, by orders of magnitude. For him, it's nothing. Light work, lightweight. And he wasn't in the event horizon, but he was near or over the accretion disk of a black hole. A black hole is made visible by the gases around it, right? Normally it's invisible, but because of the mass of it, it kind of makes the swirl of gases around it. That's called the accretion disk. The event horizon is actually the point of return that's much further inside of the black hole. And it looked like Omni-Man was going to try and kill himself by going into the event horizon. But still, the absurd amount of gravity that you have going on around the accretion disk is, and he was comfortable as hell there, just chilling. But because it seemed like he was going to kill himself by going into a black hole, that means that black hole stuff can kill Omni-Man. Hello. Now, to be fair, does even kill like random Marines that get sucked to his whole black hole Kuro's Voidu. But at the same time, the claims are made that he does do genuine black hole activity. So maybe we haven't seen that technique yet from Blackbeard, where he can make a genuine black hole with an event horizon, distort time, because it already absorbs light, and that is a black hole claim. I digress. There's also another thing that we do know that did kill Omni-Man, and it was stated in season 2, where apparently one of the alternate versions of Cecil and Donald, female variants, in their version, they actually made a sort of quantum bomb that kills Omni-Man. And then the version of Mark is locked up, chained up. So the actual logistics of a quantum bomb of some kind are insane, and apparently that has sacrificed most of Europe in order to kill Omni-Man. But it can be done. You can kill Omni-Man. And in the world of One Piece, though there are very strong fighters, and there is more to come for sure, many people in the story One Piece also have broken abilities, like really strange broken abilities. And even though Omni-Man does have insane feats and moments, the Guardians of the Globe almost killed him too. And a lot outside of Red Rush, and don't get me started on Lincoln. Don't get me started on the Immortal. Please don't. That scrub ass, don't get me started on the Immortal. But the fact of the matter is that at some point they were on pace to actually beat Omni-Man. And maybe in another timeline, there's actually a variant of Mark that did have their Omni-Man, their dad, die to the Guardians of the Globe. And Red Rush doesn't get caught like a dumbass, even though he has super sensing speed. Omni-Man can be killed in certain situations, circumstances, unique powers. Like for example, someone like Sugar touching out your toy. The idea is that, okay, more power, flex, woo. Some guys just believe that, okay, because he's super strong, he can break out any power, even though the power has some unique elements to them. Potentially, but at the same time, as far as you know, Viltrumites don't have any extraordinary abilities. There are aliens that are physically gifted, not supernaturally extra ability gifted in some sense. It's like someone in One Piece that has insane physical strength, but their hockey is limited. They have hockey at a baseline, but their key, their main thing that actually makes them strong is their physical strength first and foremost, their flight, super speed, and so on and so forth. These are the claims to fame for the Viltrumites in a nutshell. I haven't seen any Viltrumite pick up a wand and say, Wingardium Leviosa. I haven't seen a Viltrumite bend space and time or make a Fate Stay Night Reality marble. Domain expansion, Yoriki Tenkai. I have not seen that. We saw someone like Mark, again, who was a Viltrumite, damn near. He almost lost to a freaking dragon, dude. A mystical dragon. And yeah, don't get me wrong. The Avatar dragons are dope. They're cool. But what? Huh? And apparently, this dude, Omni-Man, fought against the dragon too, even mentions that in season 1. And Buddy's still here. There are individuals, plenty of individuals, that have unique body structures in the story One Piece. Like, for example, the Elders. The Elders have very unique abilities where they're damn near immortal. How do you deal with someone that can transform their very body into photons like Kizaru, when your stats and your gifts are physically oriented for the most part? The same thing goes for someone that embodies lightning, like NL. And we saw what Powerplex was doing to Viltrumite in season 3, episode 7. Oh my goodness. Jesse Pinkman finally got one. But some of these intangible people are just going to be very hard to deal with, particularly when the Viltrumites don't seem to have any extraordinary aura or key or magic or mana, something innate to them. But I never see Viltrumite D Garp really focusing on these things when he has so many natural gifts. Like Omni-Man never really learned anything else other than just what he has honed his skills for most of his life away from the planet Earth. Viltrumite D Garp would be honing his skills away from the blue planet, so hockey is not a strong element in his rapport. It's not. I imagine like in the same vein as Marco and Vista trying to attack a Kainu, where essentially be like, yo, I'm just kind of giving an order right now because yeah, they have hockey, but it's like, dude, stop. The problem, let's say, taking over a planet like One Piece is that you don't know who's gonna have what, dude. When you have folks that can manipulate your memories, throw you to alternate dimensions, all these weird things, sometimes it's hard to say, hey, strength and strength alone, might makes right is enough. Sometimes unique powers just play too much of a factor, particularly en masse, if it comes to a point where you have people in mass stand up against Viltrumite D Garp, and they have some of those busted powers in the verse. And there's a good chance that the elders and the world government will not be standing with the Viltrumites because they run the show, they rule this blue planet. So it is for sure an interesting mode of thought here, how it worked out with, let's say, some unique powers. Too many times in like fights, a lot of people just kind of consider the max power and not what they do on average, and then they upscale everything to max power, where you have situations like Omni-Man being pressed, heavily pressed by the first iteration of the corpse soldiers that Cecil had at the end of the first season. Omni-Man was getting pressed by these dudes, man. And yet has enough speed to catch Red Rush? It is what it is. Inconsistent, but it's things you have to factor in. These things are real, you just can't ignore these things. And I think in terms of an Omni-Man level Viltrumite D Garp, it can get to the point where they can, in some shenanigans with some powers, get the job done in subduing / defeating Viltrumite D Garp. So arguably, Viltrumite D Garp will probably get to a point where he will fail in conquering the blue planet of the One Piece world. And I think particularly the biggest obstacle will be his own offspring, Monkey D Dragon, Viltrumite D Dragon. Viltrumite D Dragon ain't on the same page as Viltrumite D Garp. No. In fact, he joined the Rev. He created a whole other oppositional force. In this situation here, I think that Monkey D Dragon will be very similar to Mark Grayson. He will not succumb to his father's whims and wishes. And that in of itself is going to be a major issue for the Viltrumite Empire. From there, we get our Oliver, aka Monkey D, Viltrumite D, Luffy. Oh boy. Ooh. That's gonna be crazy. Listen, if you gave Luffy, Viltrumite plus Nikas, don't talk to me. No one talk to me. That's gonna be maybe another video for another day. But if I'm Luffy, I'm gonna be cheering hip hip hooray, huzzah, because yo, you broken as hell, dude. You broken as piss. But I digress, right? That I think is gonna be a problem. A big problem. I can see in this case here, Viltrumite D Garp retreating. I can, it's possible. However, again, we're basing this off of a version of Garp that is based on Omni-Man. Now, if it's Conquest,
I am a victim of my own success.
can we stop him? Is it possible? The answer is probably, but it's a lot harder, obviously a lot harder, than the Omni-Man style invader on the blue planet. Absolutely it is. Conquest, though lonely, also kind of succumbs to his own arrogance, where he believed that no one on the planet could match him. And he was right up until Eve went, Phoenix Force. And then, beam, and then, and then headbutt, boom. So when you have a Viltrumite, Dragon, and Oliver, it's possible, man. But you do have your black hole dudes. You do have your light speed cats in One Piece. You do have these busted powers across the board. And we have seen Mark and Omni-Man succumb to different things in the story for sure. Conquest, though, get ready. It can be done. But when you see that Thanos gauntlet, I can't curse. Let me know your stance, though. Let me know your stance, baby, on the subject matter at hand. If you don't know, I have not read the comics at all, so I don't know what happens in the comics. And I'm talking about essentially what I've seen from the show and trying to apply it in a fun way in a what if. But hey, let me know what you think. Let me know what you think on the subject matter at hand. I'm going to catch you guys and gals on the flip side. Be easy. Take care. Have a nice one.